Hey, good morning, gang. This is the Roaming Prepper. Hang on a second while I do an audio check here, because nope, I got audio. Awesome. Okay, I believe I do. In any case, I just wanted to throw this video out there because there's a lot of speculation on the pipeline, and everyone knows it's going to make things more expensive, but nobody's quite sure exactly how is it going to make things more expensive. So I'm going to try and approach it more from the business and engineering standpoint as to how the dominoes are affected by something like this. So just to make a clarification, a lot of people mix, they hear oil and gas and they think gasoline comes out of oil and gas, and that's not quite correct. So you have oil. Oil or petroleum will give you butane, propane, diesel, gasoline, and then you have dry gas or sour gas, it depends on how it comes out, which is predominantly methane, which is naturally occurring. Basically, as the oil is condensed into the Earth's geography over pressure and temperature and time, it forms oil. And if it gets, as they say, cooked too much, it's over mature, it breaks out into methane. So they're two distinct products here. Now, what they have, they're shipping in these pipelines, if I'm understanding correctly, is predominantly the petroleum side, not the natural gas side. But that doesn't preclude that there's pipelines for both, which would make sense. So the oil side would be shipping propane, butane, gasoline, motor oil, and those kind of petroleum liquid products. Then you have the dry gas going in the dry gas pipelines. So I don't know the nature of the hack. From what I've read, the hack was such that it affected the system in their IT department, and to prevent it from not only getting into the operational computers in the pipeline, but from actually going the other way and going into the producers, the Exxons, the Chevrons, all those independent companies, and infecting them. They quarantined themselves, but in doing so, they shut off their access to a lot of stuff. It was the best play possible on the part of the company. I give them credit because that had to have been a tough decision from a business standpoint, because that's going to create a disaster. But basically, that's how it went down. So now we have these shortages, right? This petroleum, gas, all going up. So the first things that are going to be hit, shortages, with you have no pipeline. Well, you have two other options, realistic options, trucking and trains. Well, trains have long lead times. They're scheduled months in advance, so you can't just tell a company, hey, stop what you're doing and ship only gas or oil. That's the most efficient way, but that's not pragmatic. Plus, it takes a little longer than just blowing it down a pipeline directly into the refinery. The train has to go to the refinery, unload via hoses, and so on. So that takes a hot minute. The other option is trucks. Trucks are easy to redirect, but they have weight limits. So the administration wisely lifted the weight limits and said you can drive more hours, you can carry more product. It's a bit more unsafe. There's a reason they have limits, but given the choices of that or having a disaster of no fuel, your options are limited. So trucks and trains are now your two options. However, we have a truck shortage due to COVID. And so a lot of people left the industry, or they're no longer certified, whatever the case is. Companies are struggling to get trucks on the road. So we're going to see that transition from pipelines to trucks and trains become very heavy, but there are challenges there that are going to be a problem. So now we go to transpo. The first things that are going to get affected is transportation. So jet fuels and vehicle fuels, diesel, gasoline, on the East Coast is going to suck. They say the prices won't go up. It went up 10 cents a gallon this morning in some places. It hasn't hit yet because there's a bit of a buffer. There's a lag time between the shutdown and what's going to be felt at the pumps, but it's going to eventually propagate that way. And once it does, you're going to get clobbered. However, airlines are going to feel it really quick because they use a lot of fuel and they only have limited storage in the airports. So you're going to start seeing that trickle effect's probably going to hit air. I may be wrong, but maybe hit air before it hits vehicles. So now people are topping off their tanks, and that's adding to the demand. It's kind of like the whole toilet paper thing, but with gas. So you're going to see the first effect is going to be transportation. Then the second sector that's going to be affected is going to be heating and power. There are a lot of buildings in New York City, having lived there at one point in my life, that are run on oil boilers. They're not all converted to natural gas. And remember what I said at the beginning, natural gas and oil, two different product lines, if you will. They come from the same ground, but they're handled very differently. So oil is going to be an issue. So heating oil and oil for burning in power plants, if they're using that kind of oil, that's going to be limited. So you're going to start seeing an effect, maybe not right away, but again, this is going to be the next domino that's going to be felt, is going to be heating oil and products like that that are going to affect power generation. Now, in the Northeast, we have very large methane, dry gas fields in Pennsylvania and in Iowa and Ohio, thereabouts. Those can be redirected. They already have pipelines. They can increase production to try and make up, kind of buffer the hit, and put more gas into the gas generating electrical plants or the gas using electrical plants. But the oil plants are still going to suffer. Now we have power plants with coal as well, but the coal has to come by train. So then it becomes a question, do we transport oil or do we transport coal? Because we have limited resources. So you see where all these dominoes will start tumbling one into the other. So decisions are going to have to be made. Again, they can redirect that northeast, the Marcellus shale gas fields into the coast and try and take a bit of the hit. So at least heating, cooling, electrical systems will be running. But again, the canary in the cave, so to say, is going to be the transportation sector. Vehicles, both private and public, diesel and airlines are going to get hit first, in my supposition. Heating and power, it's a little slower lag, and it'll take a little time. And to be honest, if I were the government, which, having worked with the FEMA integrated command systems, I kind of know the way they think. They're going to push that way and keep the power running so people aren't in the dark, and then there's a real freak out. So we covered how are they going to get the fuel up, trucks and trains. You're going to have who's going to get hit first, transportation sector, air and vehicles. The next thing we have to concern ourselves about, as if we were leaders or business people, heating and power. Well, now you get to what does that do to the common man, right, and common women? Well, transportation costs are going to go up, right? You're going to have to pay more because there are less trucks available. People are having to redirect trucks to fuel, and now everyone's screwed up. So you're going to see product prices go up because of fuel costs, because of logistical costs. There are not enough trucks to go around. Now, there's a double-edged sword. I'm in Texas, so I'm on the good side of the pipeline, you would think, right? Because we have the gas and oil here. We have refineries. I can drive 3 hours and find the damn refinery, and it works just fine. Problem is, one, they're still catching up from the freeze shutdown. And two, even though we're on the side of the fuel, a lot of our imported products are coming in the East Coast, Boston, New York, Jersey, down the coast. Well, how are those things going to get to us if all the vehicles are being used to ship oil and gas that way? So, yeah, I mean, think about it. The trucks are pulling a tanker. Well, he's not going to leave the tank there, pick up a flatbed, and bring product the other way. He's going to bring that tank back to pick up more oil. So there's going to be a problem logistically. Again, you're going to run out of trucks. So you're going to see product delays coming from the coast into the U.S. you're going to see fuel shortages going the other way. So we're going to get hit with both ends. And so even though our fuel costs will be lower in Texas, my cost of goods that are produced on the East Coast is going to shoot up because of the increased cost. So we're going to get hit regardless. Another thing someone brought up to me that I hadn't thought about, spoilage. There's a lot of fruits, vegetables, animals, stuff like that that come in on the coast. So unless they redirect to New Orleans or redirect to Houston Harbor and come down to the Gulf Coast, which is a lot of time and a lot of money, we're going to have spoilage. So how does that play? Well, right now, Colombia has instability, Argentina has instability because of economic problems due to COVID. They're big agricultural exporters to us. Well, if all their product gets spoiled or the shippers won't even take it because they can't bring it anywhere because they can't ship it where they need to, it's going to go down the food chain, literally go down the supply chain. And so not only will you have spoilage at the docks, but then exports that need to leave South American countries, our neighbors to the south, it would be in our interest that they get their exports out so they can make money and keep their country stable. They're struggling right now. Eventually, if it lasts too long, and again, this is going to be over weeks and months, if it lasts too long, you're going to have spoilage, you're going to have stuff not arriving on time, it's going to be expired. They're not going to be able to export. Their economic situation will suffer, and it's going to make their situation worse. So now this issue here in the States has now affected the coast. Now it's affecting people to import on that coast, and it's going to go outward from there. So it's going to hurt a lot of people. Manufactured goods are going to get hit. Remember, the manufacturing plants are using electricity. They're using heating oil or cooling electricity. They're using equipment that burns fuel. It's going to be, hey, Mama Bear, it's good to see you. But you're going to wind up having that situation if it lasts too long, where manufacturing is going to start getting hit. Their ground level cost of production is going to have a delta. And once that happens, the only way they can recoup, it's going to eat into their profits. And a lot of agricultural and produced products don't have great margins, believe it or not. They make their money by selling a boatload of canned goods or whatever it is. Well, if the cost goes up per can, they get hurt. So that means they're going to have to increase that pricing. So again, backing up to the beginning, just as a recap, you're going to have shortages of transportation options, right? So basically, we're going to have to revert to trucks and trains. Trains have long lead times. Trucks are already short supply. They're going to be difficult trying to redirect them with enough capacity to make up for the pipeline, which was a massive conduit. The first sector that will probably suffer is going to be transportation, air and vehicles. Personal vehicles, trucking, airlines, those are the canaries in the cave. They're going to get hit quickly. It's going to screw up their economics, and we're going to see it at the pump as individuals. Then, if it goes long enough, we're going to have issues of heating and power. They can redirect from the East Coast, from Pennsylvania to the East Coast to an extent, but it's not going to make up everything because Texas and Oklahoma are huge natural gas producers, and they need to get that gas to the East Coast, and now they may be limited. Again, we're only getting bits and pieces, so this is speculatory. If the methane is still transportable, but the oil and gas is not, then okay, they have power plants will be good, but other stuff will be affected. I'm under the general assumption if they shut down their whole IT department, they probably shut it all down. And again, tough call. Then Transpo, East Coast productions, East Coast products will be delayed in getting into the country. They're going to have higher costs because they're going to be competing against the fuel bidders to bid for the truck going the other way. So we're going to have that going on as well. And then you conceivably could have spoilage. If you have spoilage, then our South American neighbors, our partners overseas, uh, they're going to run into what they call a force majeure, which is an act of God or an act beyond the company's control. Companies are going to start calling in losses, which is going to hit insurance companies. I don't know if you guys have thought this far ahead. So if I tried to transport something like a bunch of produce and there's a shutdown, my produce can't get into the country, it spoils on the dock, I'm going to make an insurance claim and claim force majeure, which is a force of God or a greater force is what it is, basically. I couldn't help that, so I'm kind of hosed, and I'm going to claim a loss. That's going to hit insurance companies, and that's going to trickle into Wall Street in another door. So a lot of little dominoes. So I'm curious to see how the administration is going to play it. Um, Places like, again, Texas, Oklahoma, if you're homesteading, you may not be in a bad spot because you can make your own produce, trade some with your neighbor, find a local farm or cooperative. But folks living in the cities are going to be in a bind because you don't have those options. So, in any case, I just wanted to, because I've seen a lot of videos on it, but I wanted to kind of give you guys a picture of how it trickles down from the pipeline to the transportation sector to heating sector to agricultural and produce goods. And all this is occurring. We're still behind in production from the Texas freeze. I'm pretty sure produce got spoiled during the Suez incident. That's still struggling. And yeah, it's been a lot. We thought 2021 would mellow out. Not so much. So yeah, that's pretty much from a business and economic standpoint, the bigger picture dominoes. And I probably missed a couple. I had to put this together quick between conference calls. So, but you have those dominoes one after the other, and yeah, I'm curious to see if the administration can handle it right, or if it's going to fall on their face. Hopefully not. Hopefully they'll be able to kind of. At this point, they're going to have to roll with the punch. But again, the short term for everybody who may be watching now or is watching in the future, um, vehicle and air transpo costs are going to go up, and then give it about a week or two, depending on how bad the lag is, you're going to start seeing produced goods come up. Now, they take a little longer because production runs are done in batches. So if you had a fixed cost here, right, you've already assigned this production run. Even if the pipeline shut down in the middle of the production run, you're not going to change your cost. You kind of bundle them into that one sunk cost in the front end as they make the product. But the next batch is going to see it if they can't resolve it reasonably quickly. So this is interesting, guys. We all spoke about this. Yeah, Mama Bear, I'm definitely curious as to how this is going to pan out. Because I do believe if they're not careful, they'll make it worse. I think when they lifted the trucking and the limits and made some exemptions, that was a smart move to do right away, just to keep the trucks going. But yeah, it's going to hurt us. So if you can buy product now that you may need later, do it. If you can top off your tanks, do it. A week from now they may fix it, problem solved. But again, there are a lot of dominoes that are going to fall, but you're going to see it in your fuel costs first, and then given a couple of weeks as production runs are completed and the costs are assigned for the next production run of whatever product it is, you're going to see that go up. And that's where we're going to get hurt. So in any case, guys, I'm going to have to boogie. I'm kind of doing this in the middle of the workday, but I kept hearing news, and I spoke to some folks this morning in the energy sector and a few folks in manufacturing, and I'm kind of hearing the same thing. So everyone's kind of in a holding pattern. Hopefully they can get it sorted out. But yeah, if you can buy some stuff for cheap, I would, and you need it, I'd get it sooner than later and store it. In any case, y'all, Godspeed if you're on the road. Be safe. Take care of yourselves. And if you have any questions or something I may have missed, throw it in the comments below, and I'll circle back and try and answer those questions as best as I can. Y'all take care and God bless.